With the professional knowledge and internship experience I accumulated in college, I successfully passed the interview and became an industrial engineer at Miller Manufacturing. I know that this job is not easy to come by, so I treasure it and work hard to make a name for myself here. In the company, I encountered various challenges. In order to increase productivity, I delve into the production process and look for potential points of improvement. I worked closely with my colleagues to overcome one technical problem after another. My efforts were recognized by my superiors, and I was soon offered a promotion. Meanwhile, Liz's life was focused entirely on tennis. She participated in various tournaments, won many awards, and gradually made a name for herself in the tennis world. I was genuinely happy for her accomplishments, but at the same time I had a vague feeling that the distance between us was gradually widening. Whenever I shared with her the little progress and achievements at work, she always seemed distracted. She began to complain that I was too involved in my work and neglected to care for her. I, on the other hand, believed that only through hard work could I lay a solid foundation for both of our futures. Gradually, the differences between us became more and more obvious. Liz hoped that I could give up my job and accompany her to chase her dream of tennis. I, on the other hand, believed that work was the place where I realized my values and dreams, and I could not give it up easily. We began to argue frequently, each unable to understand the other's thinking. Once, we were eating in a restaurant and got into another fight over this issue. I tried to explain my position and ideas, but she wouldn't listen. Finally, she angrily left the restaurant, leaving me sitting there alone and fuming. During that time, I felt very painful and confused. I didn't know how to balance my work and feelings, and I didn't know how to make Liz understand my thoughts and pursuits. I began to reflect on my behavior, whether I was really too involved in my work and neglected her feelings. In an effort to salvage our relationship, I decided to try to change the way I worked. I started trying to adjust my schedule to make as much time as possible for Liz. We went to tennis matches and spent quality time together. However, despite my efforts, our relationship has not fundamentally improved. Liz remains resentful of my work, and she believes that I do not love her enough because I am not willing to give up everything for her. I, on the other hand, believe that she could not understand my pursuits and dreams. After a heated argument, we decided to take some time apart for a while to let each other calm down and think things over. During that time, I felt very lonely and confused. I didn't know what our future would be or if we would be able to overcome these differences and come back together. During the time I was separated, I focused more on my work and tried to fill the emptiness inside with busyness. I became more and more successful in the company and gradually won the respect and trust of my colleagues. Liz, on the other hand, continued to work hard in the tennis world and achieved remarkable results. However, whenever it's late at night, I always think of the good times we used to spend together. Those cozy images made my heart ache and made me cherish our relationship even more. I began to think about how we could come back together and face the challenges of the future together. After a period of calm reflection, I decided to have a talk with Liz. I hoped to find a balance between pursuing my dream and taking care of her feelings. When I expressed my thoughts to her, she also expressed her willingness to try to understand my position and pursuit. We started trying to rebuild trust and understanding. Although there were still arguments and disagreements in the process, we were both willing to put in the effort for each other. Gradually, our relationship began to warm up and we grew closer to each other. After this setback, I cherish my relationship with Liz even more. I have realized the truth that love needs understanding and tolerance from both sides in order to develop in the long run. And I will continue to work hard to build a solid foundation for both of our futures. No matter what challenges and difficulties I will face in the future, I will go on with determination because I know that only in this way can we make our love more beautiful and strong. I continue to invest a great deal of time and energy in my work, and Miller Manufacturing saw a significant increase in productivity under my leadership. I was honored by the company's executives and given more responsibility for key projects. On the tennis court, Liz's record grew more and more brilliant. She began to make a name for herself in major tournaments at home and abroad and became a rising star in the tennis world. I am proud of her achievements, and at the same time I am quietly supporting her. Despite our notable achievements in our career paths, we both understand that it is our relationship that is our most valuable asset. Therefore, We are both working hard to sustain the relationship in the hope that it will stand the test of time and distance. Whenever I had free time, I would go to Liz's games and cheer her on, and she would share her joys and frustrations with me after the game. We support each other and face all the challenges in life together. In this way, we are striving hard in our respective fields and at the same time managing our relationship with all our hearts. Although the future is still full of unknowns, we believe that as long as we work hand in hand, we will be able to create a bright future for us. Chap. Life after marriage was not as happy as we thought it would be. Although Liz and I entered into marriage, there were all sorts of conflicts and dissatisfaction that came along with it. Liz's disinterest in family life is gradually becoming apparent. She seemed more willing to devote her time and energy to the tennis court and chase her dreams. Whenever I came home from work and faced an empty house, a touch of loneliness welled up in my heart. At the same time, Liz was more than a little dissatisfied with my work and lifestyle. She thought I was too focused on my work and neglected to spend time and communicate with her. I tried to explain that industrial engineering is a career I love and an important means for me to provide a stable financial base for my family. However, she seemed unable to understand my pursuit and dedication. During an important tennis tournament, Liz suffered a serious injury. Her career was thus hindered, and her mood hit rock bottom. Knowing that this was a heavy blow to her pursuit of her dream, I did everything I could to support and care for her. However, the cloud of injury seemed to hang over our marriage. Liz became more and more depressed and indifferent to me. She began to blame me for her injuries, believing that my neglect of her had led to all this. Our relationship became more strained as a result, and arguments and cold wars became commonplace. I was deeply powerless and confused in the face of such a predicament. I didn't know how to save our marriage or how to deal with Liz's hurt and indifference. I began to reflect on my own behavior and whether I was really too involved in my work to ignore her feelings. During this difficult time, I came to realize that a marriage requires effort and dedication from both parties. I decided to try to change my working style to accompany Liz as much as possible through this difficult time. At the same time, I also hope that Liz can understand my pursuits and dreams and regain the trust and affection between us. However, the road to rebuilding a marriage is not easy. We need to face each other's hurts and misunderstandings and rebuild trust and understanding. It is a long and difficult process, but I am willing to work hard for our marriage. In the process, I also began to think deeply about the true meaning of marriage. Marriage is not just something that can be sustained by loving each other. It needs to be run and worked on together. We need to learn to balance the relationship between work and family, learn to communicate and understand each other's needs and expectations. Only in this way can we create a happy married life together. As a member of Miller Manufacturing's core management team, my schedule is always packed. Every morning, when the first rays of sunlight enter our brightly lit office, I begin my workday. I will first have a regular meeting with the heads of each department to understand the previous day's production, sales figures, and market dynamics. In the meeting, I not only listen to the reports, but also make decisions quickly to ensure that the company's operations are not hindered in any way. In addition, I would personally go down to the production line and communicate with the workers to understand their working condition and the difficulties they encountered. I always believe that only by going deep into the grassroots can I truly grasp the pulse of the company. I have invested a lot of effort in research and development. I know that innovation is the driving force behind the development of an enterprise, so I often discuss the possibilities of new technologies and products with the R&D team. Our goal is clear: to constantly push the boundaries of innovation and lead the market trend. Under my careful management and with the concerted efforts of my team, Miller Manufacturing's performance was rising and its market share was expanding. However, just as my career was going strong, a family crisis hit. I came home one evening to find my wife, Liz, sitting on the couch in a trance. I walked over to her and asked with concern, "What's wrong, honey? You don't look right." Liz looked up, a flash of panic in her eyes. She forced a smile and said, "It's nothing. I'm probably a little tired." I didn't think much of it and reached out to put my arm around her shoulders and said gently, "Then get some early rest and don't tire yourself out too much." However, just as I got up to leave, I inadvertently glanced at Liz's cell phone sitting on the couch. The screen was lit up, displaying an unread message. Curious, I moved closer, only to see content that broke my heart. Honey, are you still coming tonight? I miss you. The sender was an unfamiliar name, but the tone was full of ambiguity and intimacy. I immediately felt thunderstruck, and my whole body froze in place. I couldn't believe my eyes, let alone accept this cruel fact. Liz, my wife, had betrayed me. I took a deep breath and tried to calm my excitement. Then I turned, looked Liz in the eye, and asked, word for word, "Who is this man?" Liz's face instantly turned pale as she stared at me with wide, horrified eyes. She seemed to want to explain, but her lips trembled and she couldn't get a word out. I stared at her intently, anger burning in my heart. I questioned aloud, "Why are you doing this to me? Am I not good enough for you? Or has our marriage bored you?" Liz finally broke down and cried. She jumped into my arms and hugged me tightly. She choked out, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have done such a thing. But I don't know why it happened. He gave me something you couldn't give me and made me lose myself for a moment." I listened to her explanation and the anger in my heart gradually calmed down. I pushed her away and looked at her tear-filled face with mixed feelings. I knew that there was a crack in our marriage, but I didn't want to give up on it. I took a deep breath and said slowly, "Liz, if you still love me and want this family, we'll work together to fix this marriage. But I need your honesty and sincerity. Can you do that?" Liz looked at me tearfully and nodded heavily. She held my hand tightly and said, I will. I'm willing to work with you to reclaim our happiness." At that moment, we realized to each other that the marriage had suffered a crisis, but it was not irretrievable. We decided to make a fresh start, to make amends with sincerity and love, and to guard our home together. Jeff sat in his spacious study, his eyes glued to the notebook in front of him, on which his strategies and plans were densely documented. His marriage to Liz was dead in the water, and he was making thorough preparations for the coming storm. As the company's central figure, Jeff first used his authority to make a series of adjustments within the company. He optimized the management and strengthened the internal control, while at the same time he secretly carried out a complete overhaul of the company's assets. These moves were designed to stabilize his position in the company and to prepare for a possible division of assets. However, he knew that the battle with Liz was not limited to the corporate level. So he began to keep a detailed record of every exchange between the two, whether it was a heated argument or a cold silence, which he recorded in case of emergency. At the same time, Jeff has begun consulting with legal experts to gain insight into the legal issues he may face in the event of a marital breakdown. He was in no hurry to file for divorce, but he needed to make sure he was invulnerable on a legal level as well. In this psychological game, Jeff remains calm and rational. He avoids direct confrontation with Liz, and instead uses carefully planned strategies to gradually weaken her influence in the family and the company. He knows that patience and strategy are the keys to victory. As time passes, Jeff senses that he has the upper hand in this game, with Liz's anxiety and insecurity increasing, and Jeff becoming more and more comfortable. As night fell, Jeff stood in front of the window, gazing into the deep night sky. He knew that the psychological battle was not yet over, but he was ready for anything and waiting for the ultimate victory. In the wreckage of this marriage, he not only had to protect himself, but he had to make sure that he could face every challenge ahead with aplomb. I sat in a cold conference room in front of my ex-wife Liz and her lawyer. My heartbeat gradually accelerates. This is a negotiation about the fate of my future. I took a deep breath and tried to calm my agitation. In the folder in my hand was the evidence I had carefully collected during this period of time: Liz's infidelity, the records of her secret transfer of property, and the evidence that she had jeopardized the company's interests for her own personal gain. I knew that these would become important bargaining chips for my negotiations. Liz's face was hard. She obviously didn't expect me to have so much evidence against her. I tried to stay calm and looked at her with determined eyes. This was a psychological battle I couldn't lose. Negotiations finally began. My attorney detailed our claims, and I asked to retain full control of the company and to receive the division of property to which we were entitled. At the same time, we asked Liz to pay a certain amount of alimony. Liz's attorneys began to push back, and they tried to weaken the evidence we had in our hands to get more for Liz. But I was already prepared, and whenever they made a point, I countered with facts and figures. During the negotiations, I kept watching Liz's reactions. She was angry and frustrated at times, and I knew that my evidence was putting a lot of pressure on her. It was a psychological battle, and I gradually gained the upper hand. Finally, after a long tug-of-war, we came to a relatively fair agreement. I would retain control of the company and get the division of property we deserved, and Liz, although upset, had to accept the outcome. I breathed a long sigh of relief when the negotiations were over. This psychological battle was finally over, and I had secured a relatively fair ending for myself. I was a little tired, but inside I was filled with the joy of victory. However, as I watched Liz's back as she left, a wave of mixed emotions welled up in my heart as well. We were once deeply in love, and now we've come to this. But life is like that, and sometimes we have to make tough decisions to move on. This divorce negotiation is not only about dividing our property, but also about making a clean break from our past emotions. I know that there is a long road ahead, but I am ready for new challenges and opportunities. The sunlight poured onto my desk through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office as I sat in my bright and spacious office, looking out the window at the bustling cityscape. Today, I have managed to take control of the entire company and become a truly successful person. Liz, on the other hand, in the days following her divorce, her future looked less certain. I picked up the file in my hand and scanned the data sheet on it. The company's performance was climbing after the divorce, and new projects and investment opportunities were coming in. I smiled and put down the file, my heart filled with a sense of accomplishment. This was the result of my years of hard work and the reward after I made a difficult choice. However, while enjoying the joy of success, I can't help but think back to the past. Those times I spent with Liz, those former laughs and tears, all replayed in my mind like a movie. I sighed deeply, a trace of inexplicable emotion welling up in my heart. Betrayal, power struggle, personal choice. These experiences were like a double-edged sword, which both made me feel the cruelty of life and made me more determined in my beliefs and goals. I realized that everyone's life is shaped by their own choices, and that both success and failure are the result of our own choices. Today, I stand at the pinnacle of success, in control of an entire company, but I realize that this is not the end. Life is a journey that keeps moving forward, and we need to keep making choices and facing challenges in order to keep growing and progressing. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked out into the distance. The road ahead is still long, but I know I am ready for it. No matter how many difficulties and challenges lie ahead, I will go forward and continue to write my own wonderful life. And at the end of this story, I would like to say one thing to Liz. No matter where you will go in the future, I hope you can find your own happiness and success. After all, we were once deeply in love and have been through so many storms together. May you continue to grow and progress in your future journey. It was late at night, and I sat quietly at my desk, the photo in my hand sending me into a distant memory. It was a picture of us in high school, a picture of Liz Miller smiling so brightly, and me, Jeff Maine, standing beside her with a slightly strained smile on my face. In high school, I was skinny, shy, and always carried a heavy book bag through every corner of the campus. My world always seemed to revolve around textbooks and test papers, while Liz, on the other hand, was like the existence of another world. She is a popular figure on campus, always attracting attention every time she walks by. Not only because of her beautiful appearance and confident temperament, but also because of her outstanding performance on the tennis court. Whenever she swings her racket and weaves nimbly around the court, that kind of concentration and power always attracts me deeply. I remember one time, the school organized a tennis tournament and Liz played as the representative of our school. On that day, the sun was shining brightly, and she was as light as a swallow on the court, each swing looking so elegant and powerful. I sat in the audience and watched her jumping and swinging every time, my heart filled with admiration and envy. After the competition, Liz won the championship and the whole school cheered for her. At that moment, I deeply felt the light in her, a height that I could not reach. However, even though we often rubbed shoulders on campus, we never really crossed paths. I know that the distance between her and me is not only the gap between our grades and family backgrounds, but also the difference in our attitudes and pursuits in life. Looking back now, I was ordinary at that time, but I had my own dreams and pursuits. I longed to be like Liz, to shine in the field I love. Perhaps it was that persistence in my dream that made me work hard on the road ahead and finally realize my goal. Today, I am no longer that skinny nerd, but a successful industrial engineer. Although Liz and I took different paths in life, that youthful memory is still deeply imprinted in my heart. Whenever I think of her who fought hard on the court, an inexplicable emotion always wells up in my heart. That is the nostalgia for youth and the pursuit of dreams. In this silent night, I gently closed the photo in my hand and put it back in the drawer. Those beautiful memories are like precious treasures, carefully treasured in the bottom of my heart. Although time has passed, the nostalgia for youth and the pursuit of dreams will never disappear. In the days to come, I will continue to work hard to move forward, with my own way to pursue that belongs to my dream and love. College life unfolded a new chapter for me. I began to focus on physical exercise, took off my heavy glasses and replaced them with contact lenses, and my whole body became much more energetic. The new environment and challenges made me more confident. I dared to express myself and pursue my goals. Meanwhile, Liz has started her college life with a scholarship to a top university for her tennis talents. Although we are not at the same school, I follow her from time to time and look forward to the opportunity to meet her again. Over Christmas break, I returned to my hometown for a high school reunion, with a sense of anticipation in my heart that I might see Liz there again. As I walked through the doors of the party, my eyes searched the crowd. Suddenly, a red figure caught my attention. It was Liz, dressed in a red dress with long hair, talking to her classmates with a big smile. I took a deep breath and gathered my courage to walk towards her. When she saw me, there was a flash of surprise in her eyes, which then turned into a delighted smile. "Jeff, you've changed so much. I hardly recognized you." "Yeah, we've all grown up," I responded with a smile, an inexplicable feeling welling up in my heart. We chatted about our university lives and how each other had changed and grown, and Liz told me that she had achieved good results in her university's tennis tournaments and had made many like-minded friends. I was very happy for her and shared my own experience of studying and living in the university. The atmosphere of the party was getting warmer and warmer as we all raised our glasses and laughed. I noticed that Liz had had quite a bit to drink. Her cheeks were slightly red and her eyes were starting to get misty. I was worried that she was drunk and offered to take her home. We walked side by side on the streets of the town. The cold wind blew gently. I took off my jacket and draped it over her. Under the streetlight, our shadows stretched long and long, as if foreshadowing that our futures would also be closely linked. "Thank you for taking me home," Liz said softly, her voice shaking a little. Along the way, we talked a lot about the past and the future. I told her that I had always admired her talent and courage and had been quietly supporting her. She was touched by what she heard and held my hand tightly with gratitude and warmth in her eyes. Soon, we arrived at her door. She stopped and turned to look at me. "Jeff, I really appreciate tonight. I don't know how I can ever repay you." I looked into her eyes and said with deep emotion, "Liz, the truth is that I've always liked you. I didn't have the courage to say it in high school, but now I want to tell you that I'm willing to be by your side all the time to support you and take care of you." She froze, obviously did not expect me to suddenly confess. After a while, she slowly spoke. "Jeff, I have liked you for a long time too. It's just that we've never had the chance to be together." After saying that, she shyly lowered her head. My heart was filled with joy and excitement as I hugged her tightly. "Liz, I will cherish this opportunity and take good care of you." She also hugged me back tightly, as if she wanted to integrate me into her body. At that moment, our hearts were tightly connected to each other. Although we didn't come together right away, I know that this reunion planted the seed of love between us. I will water it with my sincerity and hard work in the days to come, so that it will take root and blossom in our hearts. This is how Liz and I reunited during our college days, and it was a wonderful starting point for our love story. After graduating from college, I decided to return to my hometown to follow my dream. By chance, I learned that Liz's father was the owner of Miller Manufacturing, which happens to be a leader in the industrial engineering field. Taking a chance, I submitted my resume and was lucky enough to get an interview. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.